Hi, my name is Danielle, and this is my story. I grew up in Newark, California, stayed there till I was 18 years old. Then we moved to New Mexico. Grew up in a family of 10. I'm the youngest of 10. My dad had kids, my mom had kids, then they had me together. So technically I'm an only child, but wasn't raised that way. Those were my brothers and sisters. Grew up in a big family, came from a big family. When we moved to New Mexico, Las Cruces, New Mexico, we moved to my mom's hometown. She's from there. She was born and raised out there. So naturally, family everywhere. Couldn't do nothing in that town. I couldn't do nothing without getting in trouble by my mom. We lived about 7 to 10 miles outside of town, up Highway 70. And there was nothing but desert. So lived the time of my life out there. Four-wheelers, getting lost in the desert, hiking, all of that. Partied a lot. It was also a college city, or college town, I should say. NMSU is there, New Mexico State University. So, you know, naturally, parties everywhere. And that's actually where I met, I don't know what to call him. My ex, the person who, I don't know what to call him, but I met him there, had a couple parties. We had a few encounters, nothing major, just party friends. And we got to know each other a little bit, and you know, it was, I guess, a natural friendship that developed between us. I remember one night I saw him at a friend's party, and it was like one of those moments where like all the girls in the room were so in love with him and so attracted to him. And I was never that type of female, even growing up. When I was growing up, my brother was like, no, you're not gonna like boys. No, none of that. All of my sisters had kids hecka young, so I was the baby, so I was not allowed to even talk to boys. I don't think I even had my first boyfriend until I was like 18 years old. And it wasn't even that long of a relationship because I just didn't have an interest. But when him and I started talking, you know, like I said, it was casual. We didn't really make a relationship out of it. He went on his life, I went on about mine. I went to school, finished school. I don't know what he was doing at the time. It had been about 7 years since we even had any type of encounter. Came back to California in 2014, brought my parents back. We lived out here for a little while. We started in Tracy. Well, they started in Tracy. I was in Hayward with my brother for a while. And then my brother moved out here, and my parents, we all moved in with my brother. And then come 2017, the end of 2017, my dad was like, it's getting too rough out here for us. I'm gonna take your mom back to New Mexico. So I agreed to move them out there, help them move them out there. I even had one of my very best friends fly all the way out here from Corpus Christi to help us pack up everything and help me drive out there. My parents followed. I was only supposed to stay in Cruces for 2 weeks. I remember I had told my dad after we unpacked everything and I got them settled in that I was gonna go to the Pickwick, and you know, I was gonna pick up a bottle and I was gonna pick up some backwoods, and you know, I was gonna go enjoy myself because like I said, family everywhere. Literally down the street from the Pickwick, my cousin lived there. I was gonna go visit with her, and I remember I felt somebody standing behind me and kind of just like trying to recognize me, trying to see if it was really me. Come to find out, it was him. His name was Levon. As I was walking out, I guess he paid for his stuff and then ran out after me. We just stayed outside and started talking, catching up, and he told me he had a baby and he was working and living his life. I told him I had just come out here to move my parents and whatnot. We stayed out there for like an hour, and in fact, my dad had called me to ask me if I was okay. My dad was very overprotective of me. Very, like I was a daddy's girl for real. So I had told him I had ran into a friend of mine, and he's actually the one who was like, hey, well, bring him back to the house, bring me a beer, and let's all have a beer. Like I said, I wasn't never really the type of female to like be all boy crazy. So he had told my dad that, and him and my dad had some conversation, and my dad was like, well, get her to stay. And that's what happened. He ended up talking me into staying. That was in like January. And come March, we were already moving to Albuquerque. Got a job. He was gonna commute back and forth. Albuquerque was 2.5, 3 hours from Cruces. So he worked 3-4 days out of the week. He would go to Cruces, work, and then come back. And that's how it was. And I think we were only in our place for like a month and a half. It was one of the days that he was off, came. It was a normal day. Took me to work, picked me up. We had dinner. We started having like a conversation, and it kind of turned into a little bit of an argument, but then then I like didn't want to argue, so I just started messing around with him, you know, and we were wrestling around. And I remember the moment that he was wrestling around with me, and he tried to put his thumb in an area that I was not comfortable with. I kind of pushed him off of me, and when I pushed him off of me, I guess that's what triggered him, because I went to the bathroom, and when I came back, it was like, you know, this and stupid that, and just going off on me. And he was like, I'm about to pack all my stuff and I'm about to leave. So I was like, okay. I'm not gonna argue with you. You're tripping. You want to go? Go. I thought he meant like he was gonna go back to Cruces and like go back to work. I didn't have any idea that he was like really trying to pack all his stuff and leave. So he started packing all his stuff, and I guess my temper got the best of me then, because I started pulling all the shirts out of the closet like, oh, you want to leave? Oh, okay, you can leave then. Let me help you. I'll help you leave then, you know? And one thing led to another, and he just like grabbed me by my neck with both hands and choked me, and then threw me to the ground. And when he threw me to the ground, I like was in shock. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know, like, what are you doing to me? You know what I mean? So I stood up right away, and I guess he thought I was gonna charge him or whatever, or try to attack him back, because the moment I stood up, I got the meanest punch to the right side of my face. My whole hearing went out. I seen stars. I tasted blood in my mouth. I couldn't even comprehend what was happening at that moment. All I could think about was running. So I took off running. The way that our apartment laid out was, our bedroom was the sliding glass door. That was like our balcony. All the apartments had them. So there was 4 apartments. There was, when you go up the stairs, directly me, the apartment underneath, the apartment next door, and then this. We all had the same sliding glass door in the main bedrooms. And then it was the front door. I tried to initially run for that door, and that was when he grabbed me by my hair, and like a movie, just boom, pulled me back. And I'm a big girl. I mean, see, I'm a big girl. So mind you, he was 6'4", probably like on his license it said 350 pounds, but I think he was more than that. When he threw me, I fell into our bed. I got up and tried to run for our bedroom door, and that was when he started to chase me. And how it worked in that area, so you can kind of understand how I had to run and maneuver myself around this house. We had a 2-bedroom apartment, so when I came out of our bedroom, there was another bedroom here, and then there was a hallway, the bathroom, the kitchen, led into the living room all the way around. I ran out, ran to the right. I was gonna run to the bathroom. In my brain, I must have thought, you know, don't run to the bathroom, stupid. You're gonna get stuck in there. So I ran through the kitchen, and I guess when he chased me through the kitchen is when he grabbed a knife. Chased me. I tried to run for the front door, but he choked me again. And this time when he choked me, he dragged me from the front door to the living room and choked me so hard that like he tossed me again, and I must have rolled, because we didn't have furniture at that time. That's how new we were in that apartment. We didn't have no furniture. So there was no couches to block me. There was nothing. I remember getting up, and I remember looking at my knees, because my knees had rug burns on them from being thrown on the carpet and sliding. And I tried to run for the front door again. Couldn't get to the front door because he was blocking me. Ran back to the hallway. After the hallway is when he cornered me between the bathroom and the bedroom, and he had a knife to my face, and he had his hand on my throat. And that was when he told me that I was about to meet my maker, and choked me. And I don't remember anything after that. I don't remember nothing after that. I woke up, and he was just standing over me like, are you ready? Are you ready? And he must have been hitting me when I was passed out, because I woke up and my shirt was no longer gray. I was full of blood. My face felt like my eye sockets were about to pop out of my face. I'm a big girl, so I don't know how he did it, but he picked me up and pulled me against the wall and just held my throat. And after that, he dropped me, I pushed him, and I tried to run. I remember not having any strength in my legs. My legs were like noodles. I remember getting the door unlocked and opening it. Probably had it open maybe about this much. And he just slammed it and locked it. Said, you're not going nowhere. That was when he just started punching me. Just going at it like I was just a punching bag. And I remember fighting back and screaming. I don't know how nobody in those apartments heard me screaming for help. Next thing I know, we're back in the bedroom. Adrenaline was rushing. He was yelling at me. He was calling me names. I don't even remember exactly what he was calling me, but I remember he pushed me onto the bed and he straddled me and he started to choke me again. And he was telling me that nobody would ever want me after what he's gonna do to me. After he straddled me, he went down and he bit me. He bit a chunk out of me. I must have screamed so loud, so I don't know how nobody heard me. I remember grabbing his hair and ripping his hair out to keep him from biting me. Flipped him over onto the other side, pushed the mattress on top of him, tried to get out again, but he had put the little piece of metal that blocks the sliding door from being opened. I didn't know that at the time, so I was trying to open the door and whatnot, and that was when he turned around and grabbed me again and just started going at it with me. We started going toe to toe. I started fighting back. Went on for hours. I know that, because by the time I realized what time it was, I seen the sun coming up. He had put the bed back together and told me to sit down and don't move. I asked him if I can go to the bathroom and clean myself up. Told me no, sit there and think about what I did. That it was my fault that I caused that, because I reacted the way I reacted. Pulled his clothes off the hangers, and then he just looked at me with this like straight face. It was a whole different person. I said, who did that to you? What happened to you? And he fell asleep. And when I heard him snoring, I took my opportunity. I left. The door shut behind me, and by the time I got to the bottom of the stairs, I heard him open the door and yell for me. And I just took off, bloody. Didn't have no shoes on, didn't have no phone, didn't have nothing. I just left, took off running. And I had a meetup spot where a friend of mine who I had knew from Cruces, I had just got him a job where I was working, so I knew that, you know, he was gonna pick me up for work. He met me there, and as soon as he seen me, he just unlocked his door, let me in, and took me straight to the hospital. I couldn't hardly breathe because he had choked me so hard that he almost permanently damaged my trachea. They told me that if he held on any seconds longer, that I probably could have died. I was lucky. They came and they took pictures, and they went back to my apartment to go look for him, and of course he was gone. He destroyed everything that was there, everything that I had worked my whole heart for. Pictures of my brother that passed away, you know, pictures of my dad, my laptop for work, shoes that I had never even wore, clothes, everything, bed, everything destroyed. They didn't find him, so they gave me an emergency restraining order. They put that down for 25 years, just in case they weren't able to find him. At that time, my job was like, you're causing too much of a scene. The other employees are a little too concerned about you, so we're gonna have to let you go. Because 2 weeks after, I went back to work and I was still so black and blue. And my friend that I worked with, my dad paid for them to break their lease to come live with me so that I wouldn't be alone. And then after I lost my job is when I lost their apartment. So he paid for their deposit to get into another apartment for helping me. I was only in Cruces maybe a week, maybe not even a week. I didn't even go nowhere. I didn't talk to nobody. Nobody even knew I was there yet. My tia and my cousin came to see my mom, and you know, my cousin was like, he knew I smoked, so he was like, you want to go for a cruise? If you've ever been to Cruces, you'll know, like, they've got the most prettiest country cruises ever. So he was like, you want to go for a cruise? Vamos a fumar. I said, okay, let's go. So I left. Out there you could have your windows dark. I still don't know how anybody even saw me. I had a hoodie on. Nobody seen me. We got back that night, probably like about 9:30ish, and he was just talking to me. That was my best cousin, you know what I mean? He was one of my best friends out there. And all of a sudden the door just swings open on me and puts a gun in my head. He tells me to get out. Your ex. Mm-hmm. It had been about 6 weeks since everything had happened. So I was still kind of bruised up. Still couldn't really hear out of this ear. Talking was barely coming back like normal. When he opened the door and he told me to get out, I just told my cousin, like, just go. Just go. I don't want to get you involved. Just go. And I prayed that he had the common sense to call the cops. We went inside. My parents were asleep. He like was yelling at me and telling me that I'm gonna listen to him. And he was apologizing to me. He got on his knees and, you know, he still had the gun on me. And I just kind of went with it. Told him, give me the gun. It's gonna be all right. Give me the gun. I want to say like 2 nights before that, I heard tapping on my window. I didn't realize it could have been him because in my mind, like, you know, hey, he doesn't even know I'm here. Nobody knows I'm here. But my dad went out there the next day when I told him, and he seen footprints out there. We informed the cops that that was happening. It all made sense after. Finally, he gave me the gun. We just started talking and I just heard pounding on the door, like pounding, bah, 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 bah. He told me it's the cops. They're here for me. He told me answer the door and tell them that everything's okay. But I didn't get a chance to do that. As soon as I opened the door, they just like, whoop, pull me out. And I was like, no, my parents, my parents. I just kept screaming for my parents. Like, my parents are in there, my parents are in there. There's a gun in there because I had put the gun underneath the pillow. And I don't know if he seen me do that because at that time he was still on his knees like, oh, I'm sorry, please forgive me, you know. From where I was at the end of the driveway, I could see him pacing back and forth between the kitchen and the living room. So they told me that my cousin had called them and they were already patrolling the area because of the previous night that we reported that we seen footprints outside of my window. So they were already patrolling and I guess they found his car like a block away. I'm assuming that with my cousin's call and that they just knew something was wrong. They left him in there and they surrounded the house. They seen my parents in their bedroom asleep. They shined it in there and they told me that they're in the bedroom and they called my dad and they said, lock your door, stay in the bedroom. My mom, God bless my mama, rest her soul. If you knew my mama, she was a little 410 firecracker. She heard that he was in the house. After even they told her stay in the room, she ran out and it's like, get out of my house, get out of my house. You did that to my daughter. Get out of my house. You ruined my daughter's life. My dad was like, Maria, get over here. Maria, he's gonna hurt you. They're telling us to stay in the room. And she was like, I don't care. He did that to my daughter. And she was like pushing him to get out of the house. There was the front door and then there was the door by the kitchen. I guess she pushed him into the kitchen and I had already given the cops permission. I told them where the spare key was. My dad always hid a spare key. And I said, there's a spare key here. If you wanna go in, there's the key. I can go get it for you. They're like, no, 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 no. They even took me like 4 houses down so that I couldn't be nowhere near that. And I heard 2 shots fired and then I heard a bunch of yelling. And the cop told me, your mom and your dad are safe. They're in the room. Nobody's hurt. We let the rounds off to scare him out, basically. They arrested him. He finally just gave up. It wasn't even like 5 hours after he was arrested that I started getting phone calls from him telling me, oh, drop the charges, do this, do that. You can't leave me in here. At first I was like, I'm sorry. Sorry it had to come to this, but you have no idea what you've done to me. 2 weeks after that happened, his dad and his baby mama, they started harassing me. He had another girlfriend that he was talking to. She and like 4 other females came to my house to try to fight me. It was bad. It got so bad that like as attached as my dad was to me, by August, I want to say, August of that same year, he was like, you need to go. You need to go back to your brother's house and get out of here before something worse happens to you because these people aren't letting up. They were coming to my house and throwing trash in my yard. My dad would have to clean up trash every morning. I just remember him telling me like, I love you. I don't want you to be safe. I don't want you to go, but you have to. So they put me on a Greyhound. I think I cried the whole way there. We got to LA and still my dad was texting me and telling me so-and-so drove by today and they threw this in the yard. And you know, I'm just like, how can I leave you to deal with all that? I just kept telling him how sorry I was. How sorry I was for putting him and my mom in a situation that almost cost them their life. I got to LA on the Greyhound. It just so happened that all the Greyhound drivers decided to go on strike. So I was stuck in LA for like 4 hours. I ended up having to take a train to Modesto and the train got stuck in Modesto because it was supposed to drop me off here in Stockton. And I remember calling my brother and telling my brother like, just come get me at Modesto. I seen my brother pull up. I didn't even let him stop the car and I just ran to him. I left my bags all there. Didn't even care about my bags. I just ran to my brother and I hugged him and I hugged him hard because it was a sense of relief that I was no longer worried. When I got back here, I didn't leave my brother's house for like 6 months. Never went anywhere. He tried to get me to go places. My brother's a drag queen, so he had a lot of shows and he would always try to get me to go to his shows, and I didn't even want to do that. I was always so worried about my parents, but eventually, you know, things calmed down and then court came. In fact, I had court 2 days after my birthday. New Mexico moves fast when it comes to domestic violence. And when I started talking to the lawyers and everything, they pulled me his record. He had 9 felonies, and 6 of those felonies were all domestic violence, things that he had done to other women. So he had a long battle, or not battle, but he had a long adventure of hurting women, man. They slapped 7 more charges on him after me. I didn't have to testify anything because he admitted to everything. He said, yeah, I did it, and they gave him 25 years. They let me go to court via phone because I didn't want to go back to New Mexico. I was always scared that somebody was going to come after me because even though he was in jail, he was in prison, he had, you know, these girls like just torturing my life, calling my phone. I think I changed my number like 7 times. By the 5th month, I started coming out of my shell a little bit, maybe going to the grocery store, but I was always like, you know, I would see somebody who looked like him or who was as tall as him or had the same type of hairstyle as him. For a minute there, I was afraid of men. His dad called me. I want to say like maybe 8-9 months after everything was settled. After they told him he was going to get 25 years, they sent him to Los Lunas. And that was probably one of the worst prisons you can go to in New Mexico for domestic violence. Yeah.
Why is that?
They send all the gang members, parole violators, and the lifers, so people don't care. And then once they find out that you're in there for that, his dad called me like 3 times. First time he called me, he was like, he's not doing too good in there. Could you maybe answer a phone call and talk to him? As much as I didn't want to keep reliving that, I kept having to call my lawyer like his dad's violating the restraining order. Even though he was in prison, there was a restraining order on his family because they were harassing me, you know? Second time he called me, he was like, they were beating him up. He got stabbed a couple times. He got stabbed in the side of his arm area back here, beat up all the time. He was in PC for a minute there. And then the 3rd time his dad called me is when they told me that he hung himself in his jail cell and that I should pay for part of his funeral because it was my fault that he was in there. I was like, no, I'm not paying for nothing. You're defending somebody who almost took a life and made it a habit. They called him a habitual offender because of how many domestic violence charges he's had on him. And even some of the charges that he had on him were on his baby mama, and his baby mama was one of the ones that was like harassing me, telling me I ruined his life, I took her father's child away. And at the end of the day, I don't feel sorry for none of you. The little boy maybe, you know, because no child needs to grow up without a father, but no child needs to grow up knowing what a monster their father was. And I'm sorry that he has to deal with that. You know, I pray that he lives a better life and makes better choices than his dad did, because it ruined me. I want to say for life, because even now, you know, thankfully I met my husband in 2020 and we've been going strong ever since, you know. And sometimes I allow my PTSD to come out and, you know, I take it out on him, and it's not his fault. It has nothing to do with him. And, you know, thankfully he has patience for that.
Can you talk about like how he hung himself, with what item it was?
He was naked, so he used his clothes. He was found completely naked. He used everything he possibly had. They said that his underwear were missing. At first they tried to say that it was an assault and that he was left like that. But there was no bruises, there was nothing on his body to show that he was assaulted for anything other than previous scars. They told me that he actually had 3 total tattoos of my name on him. I knew of 2, and I should have known something was off about him when he got my name tattooed on him in like such a little time. He had my name tattooed on him 3 times and a beginning portrait of me on his body. They think that it was kind of an obsession after everything happened. I think he was just sick. He had some mental issues that he needed to take care of and never did. I'm just glad that it's over. I'm still healing every day. Sometimes it's a reminder to keep going. I'm also a cancer patient. I've been battling cancer for the last 2.5 years. Sometimes I sit back and I think, like, what would have happened if he would have killed me that day? Probably lasted like a whole 8 hours. It was long. It was all night because the sun wasn't even down when we started fighting. And then the sun was coming back up when I finally ran out. So it was a whole night process. probably one of the worst nights of my life. So right now I had to take a break for health reasons, but we run a taco business. It's called D's Tacos. We plan to move to Hawaii now, and we're gonna take our taco business out there. In fact, we have a few businesses that we're gonna start up out there, but for sure our taco business. I was actually labeled like one of the 209's taco queen. So like, you know, we weren't like huge, big, but we were local and we were very much loved. We're very much missed. We're asked all the time when we're coming back. Like I said, for health reasons, I had to take a break. Hopefully in a couple months, we'll be in Hawaii.
Note that, guys. Note that.
Just know that, you know, domestic violence is a serious thing. It's out there. Don't be afraid to take that chance. Because if you can take that chance and get out, you could do it. I know it's all easier said than done. Trust me, it is. And if you're healing from something similar, just know that you're gonna be okay. It gets better. It takes time, but it gets better.